Hey guys, welcome back. We are going to be working through the SAT practice number 9, and this is straight off of the College Board website. So let's go ahead and get started. This is module 1, and this is question 1. The lengths of two sides of a triangle are 4 centimeters and 6 centimeters. If the perimeter of the triangle is 18 centimeters, what is the length in centimeters of the third side of this triangle? So here we have a triangle. It doesn't really matter what it looks like. And then we've got 4 and 6. We know that the perimeter is going to be the third side, call it S, and that's going to equal 18. So we have 10 plus S equals 18 minus 10 is going to be 8, is the third side. Which equation has the same solution as the given equation? First, we can look at all of our answer choices and see that they're all equal to 16x, and that's telling us that we can just go ahead and subtract 30, so our answer is going to be C. Ty set a goal to walk at least 24 kilometers every day to prepare for a multi-day hike. On a certain day, Ty plans to walk at an average speed of 4 kilometers per hour. What is the minimum number of hours Ty must walk on that day to fulfill the daily goal? Well, this is going to be 24, and every hour he walks 4, which means that he needs to walk for at least 6 hours. The function g is defined by g of x equals x squared plus 9, and for which value of x is g of x equal to 25? So here we're going to replace g of x with 25 and then solve for x. Okay, so now we are going to subtract 9 from both sides. That's going to be 16 equal x squared, where we're just going to take the square root of both sides and get x equals 4. Which expression is equivalent to 9x squared plus 5x? So here we're going to factor out an x, and we're going to get 9x plus 5. Each value in the data set shown represents the height in centimeters of a plant, and what is the mean height in centimeters of these plants. So this is easily done in Desmos, and I'm actually going to show you how simple it is. In Desmos, they actually have a mean function, so I'll pull it up now. Okay, so this is how to do this. Once you click on the bar where the graph is, you're going to click functions, and you can scroll down and you see where it says statistics and you can find the mean. All you're going to do is plug in all of these values and it will calculate it for you. So our mean height in centimeters is going to be 9. A student council group is selling school posters for a fundraiser, and they use the function p of x equals 5x minus 220 to determine their profit p of x in dollars for selling school posters. In order to earn a profit of $900, how many school posters must they sell? So in order to earn a profit of 900, that means that we're going to replace p of x with 900 and then solve for x. So first thing that we're going to do is add over 220 to 900. That's going to be 1120 equals 5x. And then when we divide both sides by 5, we're going to get 224. Jay walks at a speed of 3 miles per hour and runs at a speed of 5 miles per hour. He walks for W hours and runs for R hours for a combined total of 14 miles. Which equation represents this situation? The way that I see this is that you would write it as a rate, 3 miles per hour, times the number of hours that he walks. And then you have 5 miles per hour over the number of miles, or times the number of miles that he runs. And that's going to give you a total of 14. So our answer is actually A. John paid a total of $165 for a microscope by making a down payment of $37 plus P monthly payments of $16 each. Which of the following equations represents this situation? So if we're looking at this, we have a total amount of 165, and we can see that all options share that. Now, when we're looking at the amount that he paid, we're not going to be subtracting anything because that's not what's happening. He is earning a he's actually, the whole thing is money that he is spending. So he spent a total of $37 of 165, but he spent 37 first, and then $16 for each monthly payment. So this option is going to be C. The given equation relates the positive numbers p, x, and y, which equation correctly expresses y in terms of p and x. So whenever it says expressing something in terms of something else, it's telling you to solve for that, which just means that we are going to add 57 over. So this option is going to be B. A company opens an account with an initial balance of $36,100. The account earns interest and no additional deposits or withdrawals are made. The account balance is given by an exponential function a, where a of t is the account balance in dollars t years after the account is opened. The account balance after 13 years is $68,071.93. So which equation could define a? Well, number one, we are increasing our amounts. So we need to look for a number that is greater than 1 in this position. So C and D are automatically out. Now, remember, you might have seen this from some of my previous videos, but the first number after the equation is going to be the initial value. And the initial value here is 36.1, so this has to be the answer. The circle shown has center O, circumference 144 pi, and diameters PR and QS. The length of arc PS is twice the length of arc PQ, so what is the length of arc QR? Circumference is pi times diameter, which means that our diameter has to be 144 since it was given to us in the equation that circumference was 144 pi. That means that PR and QS are going to be 144 each. That also means that half of that length is going to be 72. So we have the length of arc PS, and that's going to be twice the length of arc PQ. Now, we also know that the circumference is going to be all of our arc lengths added together. So it's going to be this one, plus this one, plus this one, plus this one. So let's write that out. So we have PS, which is this one, plus PQ, plus QR, plus RS. Now, since we have a diameter, we know that this is a half circle. So really what we could do is just take half and multiply it by 2. But we are just going to know that they are going to be the same. So let's go ahead and substitute 2PQ for PS. And since we know that PS is going to be the same as QR, we can go ahead and substitute this one too. And then SR is going to be the same as PQ, so we can just replace this one with PQ as well. So here we have 2 PQs plus another one, that's 3, plus 2 more, that's 5, plus 1 more, that's 6. So we know that 6 PQ is going to equal 144 pi. So the length of QR, okay, if we know that PQ is going to be 144 divided by 6, which is 24 pi, and we know that, let's see, PS is twice the length of arc PQ, so we're going to multiply that guy by 2, and the answer is B. The solution to the given system of equations is xy, so what is the value of x? Well, you could go ahead into Desmos, but I do feel like it's just as easy to solve this using substitution since we already have a variable that's solved for. So we can replace y with negative 2x in the second equation. So 3x minus 2x equals 40, and that's a direct result of x equals 40. The frequency table summarizes the 57 data values in a data set. What is the maximum data value in the data set? So the maximum data value is going to be 14 because it occurs 6 times. One leg of a right triangle has a length of 43.2 millimeters. The hypotenuse of the triangle has a length of 196.8. So what is the length of the other leg of the triangle in millimeters? This is a Pythagorean theorem problem. We have a right triangle that's given to us and a length of 43.2. We don't know the other length, and it does tell us that the hypotenuse is 196.8. The Pythagorean theorem says that when you square the sides and add them together, it's equal to the hypotenuse squared. So we're going to fill in our sides over here. and then go ahead and solve it. And after going ahead and substituting everything and simplifying, I do get all of this. Okay, we're going to square root that and then get b is equal to 192, which is answer C. A wire with length of 106 inches is cut into two parts. One part has a length of x inches and the other part has a length of y inches. The value of x is 6 more than 4 times the value of y. So what is the value of x? This is going to be a system of equations. So we have a wire here. Part of it is cut into, or let's see, we have 106 total. We have one length of x and then the other length of y. Okay, so in an equation format, x plus y equals 106. Now the second equation, the value of x is 6 more than 4 times the value of y. So here, again, we could plug this into Desmos, but again, I think it's just as easy to go and do substitution here. So 6 plus 4y plus y equals 106. And if we subtract 6 from both sides, we're going to get 5y equals 100. Divide both sides by 5, so y is 20. Now that we have gotten y is 20, we can go in and substitute that. So our answer is going to be 86. The function f is given. Which table of values represents the function minus 3? This is going to be a cubic function, and we know that because there are 3 x's there, and all we're having is a vertical shift from that original graph, and we're going to go down 3. So let's take a look at the options real quick. Okay, this is going to be a linear function. It's a horizontal line at -3. It's sorry, not going to be option B. And then we have D is the same situation here. So it's definitely not going to be option D. Now, just an observation, we want to see if there's any consistent values that we can eliminate. And since we do not have a normal x and y value here, like, sorry, x value is increasing by a certain value, we cannot eliminate any option right off the bat. So let's hop over to Desmos and see what we can do here. Okay, so when we hop over to Desmos, we can just go ahead and type in the factored expression. And you can see that it is simply the graph just moved down 3 units. Okay, so this green one is the top one, the purple one is the bottom one. And we are looking for the points that fall on the purple line. Okay, so now we need to look and see where our graph is intersecting at -6. And it looks like the purple graph is going to hit right around -3. So our option is C right off the bat. A landscaper uses a hose that puts 88x ounces of water in a bucket in 5y minutes. Which expression represents the number of ounces of water the hose puts in the bucket 9y minutes at this rate? So the way that I'm going to set this up is make a rate and do 88x ounces of water over 5y minutes, since that comes from here. And we want to solve for this numerator. And we want to find out how many ounces of water will go in the bucket at 9y minutes. So we're going to go ahead and cross multiply this over. And when we do that, we're going to get 88xy over 5y. Whoops, this is times 9, equals the x ounces of water. Okay, so 88 times 9, looking at the answer choices, is definitely going to be 792. And our y's will cancel, so it's going to be x over 5. The answer is D. In the given system of equations, h is constant. If the system has no solution, what is the value of h? This is important to know because when the system has no solution, it means that it has no intersection point, which means that the lines are parallel. So what we're going to have to do is find out what the slope of our line is up here and then apply that to the second equation. Let's go ahead and combine our like terms. So we have 4x, we're going to subtract our 9y, so that's going to be -18y equals 5. Then we're going to move our 4x So we're going to get negative 18y equals negative 4x plus 5. Divide everything by negative 18. So we're going to get y equals 2/9 x minus 5 over 18. So what we learned from this is that our slope is 2/9. Now what we have to do is figure out how to input that up here. We are almost at a y equals mx plus b form. So if we divide everything by h, we're going to get y equals 2 over h plus 4 over h, 4 over h, x. Since we know that 4 over h has to equal 2 over 9, we can set those equal to each other. After cross multiplying, we're going to get 36 equals 2h. Divide everything by 2, and we're going to get h is 18. What is the smallest solution to the given equation? When we have a radical that is squared, those are going to cancel. So we're going to end up with x minus 2 equals radical 3x plus 34. Now, we are going to have to square both sides to get rid of the radical on the right side. So this is going to be x minus 2 times x minus 2, and that's going to equal 3x plus 34. Now we can FOIL this left side. So we're going to get x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals 3x plus 34. When we subtract 3x from both sides and also subtract 34 at the same time, what we're going to get is x squared minus 7x minus 30 equals 0. Now we can factor this. So the factors of negative 30 that add to negative 7 are going to be 10 and 3. Whenever we set those equations equal to 0, we're going to get x equals 10 and x equals negative 3. So the smallest solution is going to be negative 3. Function f is defined by the function given. F of function g is defined by g of x, and you're going to take the x value, subtract 1, and evaluate that on the function f. In the xy plane has x-intercepts at a0, b0, and c0, where a, b, and c are distinct constants. So what is the value of a plus b plus c? In order to find out what g of x is, what it's telling us to do is replace all of the x's in the function f with x minus 1. So let's go ahead and do that. So what we did here was we took this x and wrote x minus 1, and then the plus 6 stays. We took this x and wrote x minus 1, and the plus 5 stays. We took this x and wrote x minus 1, and the plus 1 stays. So let's simplify everything. X minus 1 plus 6 is going to be x plus 5. X minus 1 plus 5 is going to be x plus 4. And x minus 1 plus 1 is just going to be x. Now, it does tell us that it has x-intercepts at a0, b0, and c0. So if we go ahead and replace this whole thing with 0, we can go ahead and solve all of these different expressions to figure out what a, b, and c are. So we're going to have x plus 5 equals 0, x plus 4 equals 0, and x equals 0. So x equals negative 5, x equals negative 4, and then obviously x equals 0. Whenever we add these together, we have negative 5 plus a negative 4 plus 0. That answer is going to be negative 9. For x is greater than 0, the function f is defined as follows. F of x equals 201% of x. Anytime that we have a percentage that is greater than 100%, it's going to be increasing. So A and B are out. Additionally, whenever we have a percentage of a number, that's also going to be exponential. The answer is C. The function g is defined by g of x equal f of x plus 5, and for what value of x does g of x reach its minimum? So this problem is most easily done in Desmos. First, what we're going to do, similarly to the last problem that we did with A, B, and C. It was we're going to replace x with x plus 5, and then we're going to look at the graph and figure out where the minimum x value is. So in Desmos, I just went ahead and plugged in our x plus 5 everywhere that there was an x. And what we are looking for is the minimum x value for the corresponding y value. So let's take a look at our graph here. Okay, this is the bottom of our graph, and you can see that the x value is negative 13 and the y value is 6. It is asking us specifically for the x value, so the answer is A. 1 gallon of stain will cover 170 square feet of a surface, and a yard has a total fence area of W square feet. Which equation represents the total amount of stain S in gallons needed to stain the fence in this yard twice? Let's start out with the fact that the yard has a total fence area of W square feet, and we know that we want to stain the fence twice. So that means that we are going to have 2 times W here. Now we also know that we have 170 square feet per gallon. Multiply that by the number of gallons that we need, because each gallon covers 170. So we are going to have 170 S, and then we're also going to have our twice of the fence area. So what we need is twice the amount of square feet for the fence is going to be 170 times the number of gallons that we need. So in order to solve for S, we're going to divide both sides by 170, and that's going to give us W over 85 equals S. The table shows the results of a poll. A total of 803 voters selected at random were asked which candidate they would vote for in the upcoming election. According to the poll, if 6424 people vote in the election, by how many votes would Angel Cruz be expected to win? So let's go ahead and we're going to kind of extend this. We know that the sum is going to be 803 here. We also know that it represents 6424 people. So let's find the corresponding votes for the entire amount of people here. So we have 483 over 803 equals x over 6424. And we're just going to multiply that over to get x. Let's go ahead and set up the second one too. 320 over 803 equals x over 6424, and we're just going to get that answer by multiplying over as well. So Angel Cruz for 6424 people would have 3,864 votes. That means that Terry Smith for 6424 people would have 2560 votes. Now it's asking by how many votes would he win? So if we go ahead and subtract these two numbers here, we're going to get 1304. The answer is B. Congratulations, you made it to the end of Module 1 with me, so hang in there, we're almost done. Right rectangular prism X is similar to right rectangular prism Y. The surface of right rectangular prism X is 58 square meters, and the surface area of right rectangular prism Y is 1450. The volume of right rectangular prism Y is 1250 cubic centimeters. So what is the sum of the volumes of right rectangular prism X and right rectangular prism Y? First thing I'm going to do is sketch this out. Surface area is 58 for prism X. Surface area is 1450 for prism Y. Volume of right rectangular prism Y is 1250. Let's look at the relationship between the surface areas. So if we do 1450 divided by 58, that's going to be 25, which is the same thing as 5 squared. So surface area, whenever you are scaling one to the other, they are going to have a squared relationship here with this factor. Whenever you are relating their volumes, they're going to have the same number but cubed. So the way that we can solve this is to divide 1250, this number, by 5 cubed, which 5 cubed is 125. So 1250 divided by 125 is 10. Now, the sum of the volumes between the two of them is going to be 1260, and that just comes from adding this to this. So congratulations, we've just finished Module 1. Now let's move on to Module 2. W plus 7 equals 357. What value of W is the solution to the given equation? So here we're just going to subtract 7 on both sides, so our answer is B. Which expression is equivalent to 16 times x plus 15? So we're going to get 16x, and I don't even have to multiply those two to see that the product is going to be 240. This is a conditional probability, so the table summarizes members of a local organization by age and whether they live east or west of the river. If a member of the organization is selected at random, what is the probability that the selected member is at least 40 years old? So in this case, we have the total amount of people. So if a member of the organization is selected at random, that's going to be out of the 135. What is the probability that the selected member is at least 40 years old? So we're going to be looking at only this column here, and we're going to have 107 over 135. So the answer is D. The solution to the given system of equations is xy. What is the value of y? Well, we can see that 3x equals 12. So what we can do is replace 3x with 12 in the second equation and then solve for y. So if we add 12 to both sides, y is going to be equal to 6. A line in the xy plane has a slope of 1/9 and passes through the point 014. Which equation represents this line? So this is going to be our y-intercept here, and this is our slope. Remember that in our slope-intercept form, the 1/9 is going to be replaced with m, and this means that our b value here is going to be 14. So the answer is going to be D. In the figure shown, line C intersects parallel lines S and T. What is the value of x? So in this case, we have an angle here, and we know that this is a linear pair, so this is going to be 70. Now these are corresponding angles here, which means that x is going to be 70 as well. The function f is defined by the given equation. What is the value of f of x when x equals 3 over 11? So when we replace x with 3 over 11 and we add that to 8 over 11, we're going to have 11 over 11, or just 1. The table shows 3 values of x and their corresponding values of y. There is a linear relationship between x and y. Which of the following equations represents this relationship? So as x is increasing, y is decreasing, which means that we are going to have a negative slope. So b and a are out. Then our y-intercept is 18, which means that this value has to be 18. So the answer is D. Which ordered pair is a solution to the given system of equations? Since x plus 7 equals 10, we can replace this value with 10 and go ahead and get our answer for y. Which means that our answer is A. Now, the reason I didn't start with x is because looking at our answer choices, they're all 3. So it doesn't make sense to solve this top equation for x. We should skip immediately into solving for y. The function f is defined by f of x equals 7x minus 84. What is the x-intercept of the graph of y equals f of x in the xy plane? So whenever we're finding the x-intercept, we want to replace this value with a 0 and solve for x. So we're going to get 0 equals 7x minus 84. So we add 84 to both sides. 84 equals 7x. So x is going to be 12. The answer is D. Rosa opened a savings account at a bank. The table shows the exponential relationship between the time t in years since Rosa opened the account and the total amount n in dollars in the account. If Rosa made no additional deposits or withdrawals, which of the following equations best represents the relationship between t and n? Let's take a look here. She is starting with $604 to start with. Okay, that's going to be the first value here. So the answer is C. The function W models the volume of liquid in milliliters in a container t seconds after it begins draining from a hole at the bottom. According to the model, what is the predicted volume in milliliters draining from the container each second? Well, based on the formula here, you're starting with 300 and it's decreasing by 4 units every t seconds. So the answer is D. For the linear function h, b is a constant and h of 0 is 45. What is the value of b? So this is kind of a trick question. This is indicating the y-intercept, and then it's also asking you what is the y-intercept. So your answer is going to be 45. What is one of the solutions to the given equation? This is a factoring question, and we are looking for factors of negative 24 that are going to add to positive 10. So in this case, we are going to pick positive 10 and negative 2. Whenever we solve this, we are going to get z plus 12 equals 0, z minus 2 equals 0. So z equals negative 12 and z equals 2. Either one of these answers is sufficient. Triangle FGH is similar to triangle JKL, where angle F corresponds to angle J and angles G and K are right angles. If the sine of F is 308 over 317, what is the value of sine of J? Since triangle FGH is similar to JKL and we're asked for the sine of F, or we're given the sine of F and we're asked for the sine of J, it's actually going to be the same exact answer. It's B. The population of Greenville increased by 7% from 2015 to 2016. If the 2016 population is K times the 2015 population, what is the value of K? Anytime that you are multiplying by an increased percentage, you're going to take that percentage and add it to 100%, which means that it is 107% or 1.07. Each of the dot plots shown represents the number of glue sticks brought in by each student for two classes, Class A and Class B. Which statement best describes the standard deviations of the numbers of the glue sticks brought in by each student for these two classes? All the standard deviation is the spread of the data. So let's take a look here. We have this spread here and this spread here. It is absolutely identical. There is nothing different about these. The only difference are the ranges of numbers here, but that doesn't really matter when it comes to standard deviation. So they're going to be the same. So the answer is B. The function m gives the predicted body mass m of t in kilograms of a certain animal t days after it was born in a wildlife reserve, where t is less than or equal to 390. Which of the following state is the best interpretation of the statement m of 330 is approximately equal to 362 in this context? Since we have m of 330, what that is saying is that t is 330. Now it already says that t is relating to days, so let's see if we can pick out which option is going to be. This is the only option that has 330 days in it. It's definitely not going to be 330 over 7. Triangle XYZ is similar to triangle RST such that X, Y, and Z correspond to RS and T respectively. The measure of angle Z is 20 degrees and 2XY is RS. What is the measure of angle T? This one is actually a trick question as well. So when it comes to angles and you have similar triangles, the angles will actually correspond and there's really no work for this. If Z is 20 and it corresponds to angle T, then T is also going to be 20. The function f of t equals 60,000 times 2 to the t over 410 power gives the number of bacteria in a population t minutes after an initial observation. How much time in minutes does it take for the number of bacteria in the population to double? Well, if you're familiar with the doubling formula, then you already know that this is the doubling time down here. So this is going to be, the answer to this one is going to be 410. Now, if you didn't remember that, there is another way to solve that. The initial population is 60,000. If we were to double that, it would be 120,000. And you can just go ahead and solve this equation for t. If we were to divide both sides by 60,000, we're just going to get 2 on the left side. And that's going to be 2 to the t over 410. Now, 2 to the first equals 2 to the t over 410. When we have the same bases, those will cancel. So 1 equals t over 410. And then you just multiply that over and you get a direct result of t equals 410. So either way, you can get it. But if you're familiar with the doubling formula, that's going to be the answer 410 in the exponent. The function f is defined by f of x equals a to the x plus b, where a and b are constants and a is positive. In the xy plane, the graph of y equals f of x has an x-intercept at 0, -25, and passes through the point 223. What is the value of a plus b? Let's go ahead and plug in our y-intercept and see if we can solve this equation. So our x-intercept would be that replacing f of x with -25, and then we would replace x with 0. This would be a 1 here, so -25 equals 1 plus b, and -1, so -26 equals b. Now that we have b is -26, let's go ahead and plug that in. And we have this second point here that we can use as well. So when we plug in f of x is 23, we have a squared minus 26. Let's add 26 to both sides. So 49 equals a squared. When we take the square root of both sides, we are going to get a equals 7 here. Now it's asking us what is a plus b. So we would just simply add 7 and -26 together, and that's going to be -19. For which of the following tables are all the values of x and their corresponding values of y solutions to the given inequality? I think that this problem is most easily done in Desmos, but you can also do it algebraically by plugging in all of these x values and making sure that the y values are greater than the result that you get. So I think we should hop over to Desmos and take a look. We can simply plug in the inequality y is greater than 13x minus 18. And what we're going to be doing is looking at the solution sets and seeing if these points are within the line. Now, because we have a strictly greater than symbol and not a greater than or equal to, these points cannot fall on the line. Now, you can also input these in as tables, which might be helpful if you're not familiar with this. So we can do 3, 5, 8, and 21, 47, 86. Okay, you can see here that these are on the line, and so that's not going to be a possibility. So 358 is the same on this one, except now we have 26, we have 42, and we have 86 is the same, but we do have one that is outside that range, so that's not going to work. So now we have 16, 42, and 81. Those are all outside. So by process of elimination, it has to be D. But let's just go ahead and check. Okay, and now you can see that all of our solutions are inside the red line, so our answer is D. A certain town has an area of 4.36 square miles. What is the area in square yards of this town? 1 mile is 1760 yards. A lot of students miss this question, and this is why. They don't give us the conversion from square miles to square yards. So we have two options. We can either take the conversion and square it, which I think is easier. So let's go ahead and just do that. But there is another way to do it. And if you're interested, I'll be happy to show you. So let's figure out, we have 1 square mile is going to be the same thing as 3,097,600 square yards. Now, that conversion does seem a little bit obnoxious, but this is how you do it. So, since we now have a conversion between square miles and square yards, we can simply say that 4 square miles is going to be 4 times this value, which is clearly going to be the largest value there. And you can also verify that on Desmos as well. This is going to be 4.36, sorry about that, times our 33 million, and so on and so forth. Verify that in Desmos and you do get that answer. A square is inscribed in a circle and the radius of the circle is 20 radical 2 over 2 inches. What is the side length in inches of the square? A square is inscribed in a circle and the radius of the circle is 20 radical 2 over 2 inches. What is the side length in inches of the square? So first thing I'm seeing is this. I would go ahead and simplify that, and then let's go ahead and sketch this out. Since we know that the radius is going to be 10 radical 2, this is also going to be 10 radical 2, which brings us to our ratio up here. If we know that the side lengths are both 10 radical 2, that means the hypotenuse is going to be 10 radical 2 times radical 2, and that's going to give us 20 as our answer. Because the hypotenuse is also the same thing as the side of the square. Which expression is equivalent to the ones given? So you have to be careful with this. This is not necessarily asking what is the simplest form. And the first time I worked this out, I went ahead and simplified it all the way and realized that that's probably not what they were asking for because it started to get really small. And looking at all these options, none of them look very simple. So we are not looking again for the most simple form, we're just looking for an equivalent form. So what I'm going to do is take a look at this denominator on the second side, and you can see that we have an x in common and a y in common. So I'm just going to pull those out and see what we get. This is going to be x minus 8. So if I were to multiply this entire fraction by xy, we could get a common denominator. So xy times y plus 12 over xy times x minus 8 is going to be the left side there. Plus, I'm going to go ahead and distribute these. So xy minus 8y over xy times x minus 8. Now that we have the same denominator, we can go ahead and write that as a single denominator. And I'm going to go ahead and distribute this as well. So xy squared plus 12xy plus xy minus 8y over xy and then x minus 8. Now, none of our options have a factored denominator, so I'm actually going to go ahead and put that back in. And I'm going to combine like terms here. So xy squared plus 13xy minus 8y over x squared y minus 8xy, and our answer is option C. The function f is defined by the equation given where a and b are integer constants and a and b are both positive, but a is less than b. The functions g and h are equivalent to function f where k and m are constants. Which of the following equations displays the y-coordinate of the y-intercept of the graph of y equals f of x in the xy plane as a constant or a coefficient? Well, let's start off with finding the y-coordinate of the y-intercept of the graph of y equals f of x. So the way that we're going to do that is replace x with 0 and try to solve for our y value. So this right here is technically the y-intercept, and we're looking for this to be present in either a constant or a coefficient. A coefficient is going to be something that is in front of the base, so in place of where a is, or a constant would be here and here. A constant in this case would be AK, and that's not what we see here. And this constant is M, which we also don't see here. So the answer is actually D. Congratulations, you've made it to the very end of Module 2 with me. So you deserve a kudos. We're almost done. In the given equation, k is an integer constant, and if the equation has no real solution, what is the least possible value of k? So in this case, we are going to apply the discriminant, and the first thing that we're going to do is distribute that x. Now we can add 16 over. And if we have no real solution, that means the discriminant is going to be negative. So our b value is going to come from our, in front of our x value, so negative 56. Our a value is going to be the number in front of x squared, and our c value is going to be this 16 here. Let's plug in all these values and see what we get. Okay, negative 56 squared is 3136. Then we're going to have 16 times 4, and that value has to be less than 0. So if we subtract over our 3136, we're going to get negative 64k is less than negative 3136. When we divide both sides by a negative, remember that we do have to flip this sign. So this is now going to be k is greater than 49. Now, because k is strictly greater than, the least possible value of k is going to be 50. So again, kudos to you for finishing an entire SAT module math test with me, modules 1 and 2. And I would definitely recommend that you check out the rest of the videos on my YouTube channel to get some more practice to make sure that you can increase your score on the SAT. Thanks so much for watching.